Let's talk about trust-based marketing by Dan Kennedy. Now, a lot of you probably know that Dan Kennedy is one of the uh, leaders in the field of direct response marketing, and his book, Trust-Based Marketing, is all about how to create trust in an environment where people don't necessarily trust each other that much. So, one of the first key insights, we're going to talk about three key insights. The first key insight is, do you really understand your customer? Do you really deeply understand your customer? And there are two really important facets to understanding your customer. First is, do you understand their primary desires? And the way to do it is to build a list of your customers' desires so that you can use it as a checklist as you think about your marketing. You want to be able to interview them. You want to talk to them to actually figure out what are their most important, their deepest desires. Until you know that, you're not really going to be able to market to them. The other idea in understanding your customer is the exact opposite of desires. Understanding their fears, their frustrations, their anxieties. And again, the same exercise. Make a list. Go interview them. Figure out what are their fears, what are their anxieties, what are their frustrations, so that when you are doing marketing to them, you know them very intimately. And as someone said very aptly, the customer doesn't really care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And the only way you can tell them that you care about them is to convey the idea that you know them very well. You know their deepest desires and their deepest anxieties and frustrations. So idea number one, understand your customer. Understand your customer. The second idea is, how does the customer perceive you? Really important idea. How does the customer perceive you? Because if the customer perceives you like a salesman, you are in big trouble. So the key is, don't be a salesman. It's like, you cannot, as Dan Kennedy says, you cannot think of a bigger handicap in selling than to be seen as, or to be perceived as, or to be felt as just another salesman. That has to be avoided. And a funny saying, he says, if it looks like a salesman, it walks like a salesman, it quacks like a salesman, it is a salesman. Pretty fine, but true, very true, that we have to be very careful about coming across as a salesman, because that's when people's guards are up, your customers' guards are up. And people know very quickly how you are a salesman. Some of the key ideas in some of the characteristics of a salesman, or some of the ways people will find out, is if you're too easy, you're too pliable, too eager, or on the other hand, you're too pushy, you're trying to get it too much, or you're trying to hurry the prospect, or you're evading their questions, or you're using the normal sales tools. All of those will just show that you are a salesman and you are in trouble. The next idea, or under the idea of like how the customer perceives you, so you don't want to come across as a salesman. Then what do you want to come across as? A high trust advisor, someone like a doctor. So you want to be someone who can actually listen to them, diagnose their problem, understand them, diagnose their problem, and offer a solution. That's a high trust advisor. That's a doctor. That's not a salesman. A salesman is just trying to sell no matter what. And that's the key distinction here. That's when you can develop trust. Once the customer thinks of you as someone they can trust, because you are a high trust advisor position. You're a doctor to them. The first idea was, what do you know your customer very well? How well do you know your customer? So getting to your customer. The second thing was, how does the customer perceive you? And the third thing is, what the customer wants to know about you. What the customer wants to know about you. This is what we're going to talk about right now. What the customer wants to know. Can they trust you? Are you for real? Are you authentic? Now, all of us have something in us that makes us authentic, that makes us real. It's important to identify what it is. What is that number one thing that makes you that authentic person, and to be able to convey that. The other thing the customer wants to know is this person believable? Is he telling me the truth, or is he just selling me snake oil? Right? Is he listening, or is he just peddling? Is he just trying to sell me the same stuff that he's been selling everyone? And overall, can I really rely? Am I safe in the presence of this person? Am I safe in the presence of this salesman or this high trust advisor? And do I understand enough about what he's going to do for me? That's like building comfort. Like, do I really understand how much value I'm going to get out of this? So a lot of great ideas here, but let's make sure we rehash the three key components of building trust. First of all, you want to be able to understand the customer, their deepest desires and their frustrations. Then you want to be able to come across as a doctor or as a high trust advisor and not as a salesman, which is the idea of how the customer perceives you. And the third thing is the idea of what the customer wants to know about you. Make sure you know about what the customer wants to know about you and convey that in a trusting place, from a trusting place. There we have it. Trust-Based Marketing by Dan Kennedy.